Thanks for joining us once again. Our focus today is to explore a discussion regarding the fact that for the second year in a row, the Model Y is the number one selling vehicle, ICE or EV, in all of Europe, including England. So we wanted to explore this and what the implications are going forward for Tesla and for European vehicle manufacturing. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank those of you who take time to like and subscribe. Any comments, always appreciated. And we actually like show ideas if you have any as well. So I wanted to review the fact that sort of a simple thing popped up. As I reviewed the production numbers, one of the things I've been reviewing is the fact that in 2023 and now 2024, the number one selling vehicle of any type is the Model Y in the EU. This also includes the old EU because, as you know, England is no longer in the EU, but they too have a number one ranking for the Model Y. And the EU is an unusual situation because there's a 35% tariff plus 10% if your vehicle comes from out of, let's say, the EU for the main EU. But for England, they don't have manufacturing to protect, so they don't have the same tariffs. So that is a different battle where Tesla has to battle Chinese manufacturers that are inexpensive in that space, and they're shipping vehicles not only potentially from Germany, but also from the Shanghai factory to that facility. So I wanted to explore this today in that when I first heard the news in 2023, my thought was, okay, this is good that they're in that position, but at some point, one of the major OEMs, as Bob Lutz has described, will sort of put it together and deliver vehicles that are superior to what Tesla's offering, and therefore sort of retake control of the environment. Well, what's interesting is that I sort of maintained that as the viewpoint of what would occur. Now we're in year 2 of Model Y, still being in the number one position. And there's some interesting question marks that pop up that relate to why this may continue. One question that comes up is Tesla's charging network remains the best in Europe. So if you move around Europe in any way, the charging network is superior when you're not in Scandinavian countries where the charging is excellent for everybody. And I just had a long conversation with one of our favorite viewers, Donovan, who's based in Sweden, and he just pointed out that, like, if he has to do a trip to Portugal in his Model Y, it's not a big deal. He can just get in the car, have a smooth ride, use the superchargers on the way and back, and that's far superior than what his experience might be in a regular ICE vehicle. I don't know if this is the case, but I was told by one of our Tesla folks that I was with, it was actually an Uber driver, that he tends to work at night, and he's getting 11 cents per kilowatt hour at crazy times in the morning, like 3 or 4 a.m. And so it's also interesting because gas prices are high in Europe. So if you choose to charge up at that time, you could actually save a lot on fuel costs if you weren't charging at home already. So there are 3 possibilities that will happen going forward on this. One possibility is that all of a sudden, as predicted, Bob and everybody else is saying that Tesla will just be wiped out by competitors, and therefore they'll lose market share and everything bad will occur from there, as you might imagine. If we're in year 2 of this, this is starting to become a normal and trend, and Tesla's revenue and profits are growing in the space. So yes, it is entirely possible that things could go south. That's entirely possible because you have some great long-term companies in Daimler, BMW, Volvo, and obviously Chinese competitors as well. There are a lot of competitors out there that could influence this. The second possibility is things could stay in the neutral zone where the market share gains don't increase dramatically. Obviously, a third possibility is, what if Tesla continues to gain market share in the space? Tesla has a number of things going for them that I think could cause them to increase market share and therefore keep growing more. Number one, there's something called, in marketing, there's a concept called the network effect. So a lot of people are influenced by the ads they see on TV, etc. But it turns out the number one way people are influenced to buy a product or service is by a relationship with someone who already has that product or service. So if your neighbor asks you, well, can I try out your car, or how do you like it, what kind of problems you're having, etc., that's a more influential impactor for sales. So the longer that Tesla maintains this number one position, you could see it becoming more and more difficult for competitors to enter the marketplace and unseat Tesla in the process. The second element of this that I think pops up is, in marketing, there's a concept called value proposition. So what's the value proposition of your company? The challenge that's going on right now is that, I learned something from the folks at Apple on this when it comes to the iPad. You'll recall that when the iPad first came out, the difference between an iPad and a laptop was 11 hours of battery life for the iPad, an hour and a half of battery life for a laptop. So all of those doctors having to walk around with patient charts every day pretty much adopted iPads en masse within the first year because they couldn't carry a laptop with them, but they wanted to update patient charts remotely with a big enough screen to fit them. So there was an example of a better value proposition for everyone considered. And let's not even talk about people who fly regularly internationally and wanted to do work on flights, and they were limited to an hour and a half on a laptop when they could actually go in a sort of adjusted iPad to 11 hours and only carry one device without having to carry multiple batteries. The next thing that I wanted to review is the fact that there's this issue of, if you're going to differentiate yourself, you actually need charging facilities in a large enough density that it reduces their range anxiety for individuals as they're in process. So in light of the fact that most of the OEMs have chosen to combine as a group, in some cases use Tesla's chargers, in some cases perhaps charging just at their facilities where they sell vehicles, it's not a heavy enough coverage for that to be competitive. So the reason I brought up the Apple situation with the added time is that when people got that 11 hours of battery life, they all of a sudden were saying it's a completely different functionality than what a laptop can do because of the long battery life and the rapid startup and et cetera. So the point is trying to add enough elements to your vehicle or product offering that prompts consumers to leave their other options and come over to yours. So I'm bringing this up today because one of the things that I see occurring right now is what do people do if they're producing vehicles and they have the disadvantage of not having a charging network, the $55,000 Tesla is offering 0 to 60 times as good or better than a lot of the best OEM performers. And so it's one thing to say you're comparable with what the Tesla might offer, but what if you could say that you get better performance, you get perhaps cheaper fuel because your electricity at home or in the charging facilities are same or lower cost. So you're getting a collection of differentiators for the Model Y or the Tesla vehicles of any sort that show that it's superior to what you currently have. So without addressing these competitive disadvantages, in my mind, it's a sign that we could actually see Tesla's market share grow, not shrink, as the European manufacturers modify what their product offerings are. And then the other thing to note here is that from a consumer standpoint, the consumers don't look at the product and say, hey, I'm going to get that because it's associated with the company, for example, BMW that we've worked with for a long time. They're saying, hey, what do you offer that's superior to my offerings that I might get from Tesla? And the problem is that the competing manufacturers don't really offer superior product offerings what Tesla is doing. So do not be surprised if, yes, we went through 2 years now of Tesla being number one in Europe. And when it comes to this market segment, there's no doubt the Model Y is number one in the United States as well. But I'm really emphasizing that because it's out of sort of the normal space. And there's the emphasis by the EU for transitioning to electric vehicles from a pollution standpoint. So what I'm chasing here in this conversation as a conclusion is to suggest that Tesla's Model Y is number one in Europe currently. There's the possibility that not only it maintains that number one position this coming year, given no new product offerings, and the fact that with tariffs, the price point is comparable to the Chinese sort of attackers, if you will. And so not only do I believe that Tesla will maintain the number one spot with the Model Y, I actually think that we may actually see a growth in Tesla's market share in Europe simply from the impact of the network effect of neighbor on neighbor encouraging others to pick up a Model Y as they transition out of their previous vehicles. One of the reasons that I believe Elon sort of is not as thrilled about pushing the efforts to get the Semi out there is that when it comes to cars, 40% of Tesla vehicles are leased. So they're out there for 2 or 3 years. And then that tends to be the life cycle for consumer vehicles versus 10 years for trucks. So the possibility for us to transition into a much stronger Tesla as we go forward is actually very high. And, perhaps my final note is that the measure of cars often is, can you blow the doors off something really expensive? So particularly with the Performance Y, you're able to pretty much deliver as good, if not better numbers than cars costing double or triple, even quadruple the price. Plus you have all the functionality of 4 doors, etc. So I look forward to comments you might have on this, but I just think that this is a sign that Tesla could become a lot bigger, and they have ways to increase production by simply shipping cars from other places, US, China, or increasing production in Germany. And so therefore there's growth without necessarily having to spend the money on more factories. So I just think that this is an illustration of perhaps of why we're seeing strength in Tesla's stock price right now, that they are doing well already, and the fundamentals in place suggest that competitors don't have any good solutions to offer a better value proposition to customers that want to own in this space. Once again, we want to thank you for taking time out to join us today. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Please take time to like and subscribe. Next is, once again, our health tips. I wanted to encourage you to consider maybe baby carrots or cucumbers or some of the other things out there, especially if they, like the iron that's in spinach, as a way to improve personal health, and also noting and being aware of obviously what you eat, but in particular the grains. I've been learning about the fact that the grains and food processes developed over the last 100 years are creating a lot of health issues that manifest in different ways to all of us, especially the seed oil. So the encouragement is to avoid, corn oil and the other oils that foods are cooked in because of the impact on the body. Once again, want to thank you for joining us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Tschüss, auf Wiedersehen, hoda hypes, drasiche, ni hao ma. In Jamaica, we say enough respect, walk good man. Thanks for joining us. Have a great day, and bye for now.
Transition and quick. We are not in good shape at the moment. Companies in Germany are slashing jobs, from car makers like Volkswagen and Ford to steelmaker ThyssenKrupp. Thousands of jobs are on the line. So what does this say about the state of Germany and its future? Well, joining me now is Labour economist Nicholas Ziebart from the Leibniz Centre for European Economic Research. Thank you very much for joining us. What do these proposed job cuts tell us about the state of German industry? Well, first of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. Well, the state of the